अगर बचपन में और मार पड़ी होती ना, तो आज ये दिन नहीं देखना पड़ता. Is something that somebody said to me, which, well, it was hurtful, and I don't think true. But what I do know is that our parents' generation had physical punishment as the norm. They were beaten up quite a bit. Have you ever heard the expression spare the rod and spoil the child? These people, when they were growing up, talking 1960s, 70s, 50s, 40s, 30s, depending on how old your parents are, these people got a lot of the stick, because of which, when these people grew up to be parents, one of the things, guess what they did not do? They didn't beat their children so much. You know why? Because their childhood was a little unprivileged compared to ours. What did that do to our generation? So we became a bunch of softies. Now, this is, of course, a very crude way of saying it. Our parents were very indulgent towards them. Let's give our children what we never had. Guess what your parents didn't necessarily have? So if your parents had a lot of siblings, they probably, unless they were like princes or something, or queens or princesses, they probably did not have original clothes. There was a term called hand-me-down. So the eldest in the house would get original clothes, and then those clothes would be repurposed every time there was a new child in the house. Our generation, in comparison, had fewer children in the house, and therefore economics worked better. There was more affordance. Our parents probably, now on an average, mothers work a lot more than was the norm in the old days. Therefore, lots more money in the house, and therefore children get much more, which makes us feel entitled. Entitled to what? The same kind of treatment, the same kind of care that our parents took of us is something that we think is normal, is something that we think is our right. In an ideal world, maybe so. But it's nobody's responsibility to keep us happy. The only person who's supposed to keep us happy is ourselves. If you get married or something in life, yes, your happiness should be the lookout of your companion. But if you're always complaining, saying, you don't keep me happy, you don't keep me happy, guess who's not going to be happy? You. And that's not coming always from a point of rationality. That very often comes from a bias called entitlement. Just because your parents were overcompensating, saying, let's get this person the best that the market has to offer in terms of schooling, in terms of clothes, in terms of holidays, in terms of confections, doesn't mean that you deserve all of those things. Because if you did, well, by that logic, your parents must have also deserved all of that when they were growing up, and their parents must have also deserved all of that growing up. Nobody deserves consumer outcomes, right? You go ahead and reward yourself every now and then, but most of the times, things that you reward yourself with are called spoiling agents, because at the end of all of this, toxic positive parenting, you become a spoiled person. So I'm very conscious about how much I have a 4-year-old called Radhika. I'm very conscious about how we're going to balance money in her life, how many gifts she's going to get, because I know that she gets a lot from all kinds of relatives. And at the end of the day, are we doing the right thing by giving all of this without her even asking? Because at the end of it, one of the tallest identities that my generation and the generations after me have is an identity called the consumer identity. We, at the end of our lives, are consumers, very majorly so. We envy people who go for those holidays that we look at on their Instagram profiles. We envy people who seem to be flaunting that flashy new object that they just bought and we didn't. Our parents maybe had this a little lesser than us. Their parents maybe had it a little lesser than them, and therefore we're worse off because our parents overcompensated for the absence of cheer in their lives. I know for a fact that my father would be very comfortable with standing in a queue. I hate standing in queues. Why? Because my parents made it very, very sure that I did not have to go through inconveniences. Now, my father has a super skill. He can stand in queues whenever he wants. He doesn't complain. I do. So who's the spoiled one? I am. Did I do that to myself? No. Actually, I rebelled against it. So when I was in my teenage, one of the things that I rebelled against was, please don't spoil me. I want to rough it out. Let me rough it out. I roughed it out in a large sense. I stopped taking money after a point of time. But you can only do so much unspoiling that you know about. A lot of it still remains. So why am I ranting about this? I'm ranting about this because I see that one of the very negative outcomes of this, I can't call it a trend, it's now a human characteristic. The fact that we've been raised with a lot more pampering than our parents, a very negative outcome of this is the fact that children don't know how to take care of their parents when they grow older. Children resent the fact that their parents still exist. They resist, they notice a lot of the things that our parents have as problems. They don't want to participate in that. They're always talking about mera school, meri padhai, meri coaching, meri naukri, mera whatever. A lot of this seems to be the direct outcome of the fact that parents always ask the question about tumhare kitne marks aaye. How did you do in that project? Did you go to school today? Everything was about you. I don't think enough families ask the question, how many people were you kind to today? What was the last act of kindness that you did? Did you ask somebody if they were in pain? Did you ask somebody if you could help? I don't think enough families do that. But just about every family makes it known to the child, you're not rank 1 and we're watching you. So whatever you prime these children with, they're going to deliver. Can we call it a fault? I would love to call it a fault, but that would be judgment and people don't like it. So what I'm saying is, here is a thing that's happening. We can do something about it now. So if you plan on raising a child, be conscious of the fact. Don't just ask them about their results. Don't just give them stuff. Let them earn stuff. Ask them about what kindness they've done. Ask them about what they intend to do towards their families, what their contribution is supposed to be. If that culture can be set up, I don't think it's that difficult to raise a decent human being who's capable, competent, and adequate in raising a good family, in looking after the ones that they love for. Because you know what? Happiness is real only when shared. And their entire process of living would be so much more beautiful. They would have so much more strength. And their families would be so much more grateful to them. If you liked what you just heard, this is the kind of stuff that we do in the Logophilia Public Speaking Program. We do a few batches in the year, but not too many. We don't take more than 15 in a room. If you want to be a part of that experience, read the description below.